So welcome everyone, and I'm honored again. Every week I'm honored. Every time this happens, I'm so glad that you show up and participate and trust me with your artistic abilities. I think it'll be a fun one. Colors that we're looking for are sap green, ochre, indigo, alizarin crimson, or if you have another one called carmine, which is very similar to alizarin crimson. We're looking for a reddish pink for the flowers on the tree. Raw umber, which is brown. So if you have only a light brown, you can add a little bit of blue to it and it'll get darker. And cerulean blue is our sky for around our cherry blossom tree. So let's get into art mode. So we'll just take those deep breaths. And when you take that deep breath in, when you let it go, just make some noise. Just give yourself permission to unless you're with someone that, it's not okay to do that. But when you take a deep breath in and then when you let it go, just sigh or moan and just let that really go. And I think you'll find that feels even a little bit different from just exhaling. So we'll do 3 deep breaths with our little moan at the end or our little sigh. So first deep breath in and hold it for a second and release. Doesn't that feel good? If you've done that, I hope you have enjoyed that. Trust yourself. It'll be fine. Second deep breath in and release. And our third deep breath in, and this is being recorded, so they're catching me on camera. So that's, whatever it is, it's not harmful. Third deep breath in and hold it for a second and smile and moan or sigh when you let it go. Oh, that feels great. So we'll just let go of all the tension so far of the day and we'll get right into some art. So I have containers of water today and brushes. I have a 0, I have a 3, that's a secondary 3. I have a 2, I have an angled brush, so I'm not sure if you have one of those, but these are quite good for a number of different applications. And then I have a 6, a bigger brush, and these are all pointed brushes except for my angled brush. Paper towel. We will not need a blow dryer for today. So we have our cherry blossom. So let me just read today. I have my book again. This is my book, A Year of Positive Thinking, Daily Inspiration, Wisdom, and Courage by Cindy Spiegel. So she says for April the 30th, this is an exercise in stories. A story is simply that. A story, no matter how factually true, is still just a story. And that's a quote from Marianne Williamson. You decide the story you want to tell and the story you want to live. Oftentimes, they are not the same. I grew up, this is not my story, this is the story from the book. I grew up with a whole lot of love, but very little money. I vividly remember making that decision as a 13-year-old girl that I wouldn't be a poor adult. I'd get an education and I'd see the world. I've done all of those things. Where I came from made me the woman I am, and though I will never forget that, I consciously choose to focus on the story of now. It's allowed me to keep moving forward rather than getting held back by what no longer exists. What story are you choosing to tell? What story are you choosing to live in? Think about that and decide if that story is truly serving you today. Remember, no matter how true it is, it's still just another story. Now she says a curse word in there, but it's just still another story. So think about the story that you're thinking you need to live, and is it serving you? And if it's not, the interesting thing is we can always change that story. We are in control. So we are at the cherry blossom tree. Again, we'll need some water, some paper towel just to tap your brushes off. And I'm using a larger brush. I have my biggest one, number 6, dipping in some water, just getting my paint. I'm going to start with the Alizarin Crimson, or if you have Carmine, I'm starting with that. And I'm going to paint all around this tree. I'm just using brush strokes. I'm not looking for a straight line. I'm using the side of my brush. I'm just tapping on color. I'm going to go back on again, get some more of that crimson. I'm going to tap that on my tree. I've got some spots where it's white still. Going on again. And so in the order, by doing this, some of your colors, as you put it on, if you can see my tree, some of my colors are lighter and some are darker. I'm not looking for perfect consistency. I'm looking for all different lights and darks throughout. I'm just using the side of my brush. I'll get a little bit of that alizarin crimson or carmine, whatever you've got. I'm going to paint my road. Now, if you're looking at the picture, my road isn't pink, but it does have pink in it. So I'm just going to use some water and spread that out a little bit. I'm just looking for a nice soft coat of pink. That's my pathway or my road. And while that's still wet, I'm going to add raw umber on top, right on top of that pink. And if you watch that, as it starts to blend, it's turning gray. It's got a little pink undertone, but it's turning gray. So I didn't soak my tree. My branches aren't completely soaking wet. Most of them are dry at this point. I'm moving on to the sky with cerulean blue. So cerulean blue, I'm coming around my tops of my branches where my flowers are, right to the corner. And if there's little gaps around, you can put the sky in and around that tree. You see I've got some little gaps in here. I'm putting the sky right in there. And if I've got a white spot in there, I can actually put some sky right in the center. That way you can see there's a little gap. You can see the sky through the tree. And if you're going to do that, do an uneven amount. And if you like clouds in your sky, you can use paper towel and just make some little clouds. So you're just lifting off paint to give you little clouds. We'll come back and we'll put some more details on that tree, give it a little more color. But firstly, let's move on to sap green. And we're going to paint our grass right along the road. You can leave the trunk of the tree. You can leave that little brown section. That's more of the roots of the tree. And we'll come right up under that tree, right to the edge of the sky. And again, brush strokes are fine. We'll want to have the look of a meadow in the background. And carrying on with the grass on the other side. Just steering clear of those roots. But if you paint over them, you can paint back. You can paint them back anyways. Now I'm going to shift to a zero brush, very small bristles, using my raw umber, my brown, and just making sure I have paint only on the tip of my brush. So if I need to roll it to take off any excess, I'll do that. I only want paint on the tip. So I'm starting to paint these branches that are in my tree.
Excuse me, Kathy, what color is that?
This is raw umber. And use a zero brush. Just get paint on the tip of your brush. So if you need to roll it to clear, go ahead and do that and then get on fresh paint. So we're just painting these fine lines, the branches, and if they extend beyond into the sky, that's okay. If you decide you want to add on an extra branch, or a couple of branches, it's always nice if you find a white spot in your tree, like this spot here, and you add just a little branch in the white spot. It will really show up. And they don't all have to connect either. And if your branches are a little bit wiggly, that's okay. They don't have to be straight. And if you find at this point you're holding your breath, take a deep breath, let it out, moan or make make a sound if you need to. Sometimes that helps. I'm going to shift back to a number 3 brush and still using raw umber, the same color. I'm going to paint the tree trunk. But it also doesn't need to be even or straight at the bottom. A bit of a zigzag would be good. Some of those roots coming out. And we have the big roots at the side. More roots coming out the other side. And I'm going to paint that right up, just into the tree. I'll join a couple of those branches. And I'm going to lift off some of the paint on the trunk of the tree. Rough it up just a little bit. I can do the same where the roots are, just lift off a little bit. And while I have that raw umber still wet on my brush, I'm going to put a little bit of earth or dirt at the top of the road, just on the one side. Just a little bit of ground, a little bit of dirt. I'm also going to create a little bit of roughage in the grass. Could be a tree branch, could be a rock. I'm just adding a few little pieces. And we're not done our tree yet. We're still going to add more red. If you remember, I had said we will add deeper colors in the tree. So some has dried a little bit lighter, some has dried a little bit darker. When we put on fresh of the same color, the alizarin crimson or the carmine, whichever you used, when we put that fresh color on, it's just going to pop even that much more. But right now we have a little fence that we haven't indicated yet. So I'm using black, but I'm toning it down to be gray. So I've got black. I'm using my zero brush, my smallest brush with water and black, and I'm going to paint this fence. So I'm only painting the top rail, and it just kind of ends all by itself. It just disappears. And that fence continues on the other side, way over here. And we only have a top rail, and then it just sort of disappears as well. And maybe you saw that when you drew that, maybe you didn't, but if you put that in now, you'll be able to see. And before we finish with the grasses, I'm going back to the grasses with sap green and my number 3 brush. And just under the roots, I'm going to add a little bit fresh sap green just for a little darker color. A little bit on the other side. So again, I like to work in odd numbers. And we'll just drag a little bit down just to give direction. And I'm just using what's on my brush, just dry brushing. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's when you use your brush and whatever paint is on there, you're just cleaning off your brush. So sometimes you end up with some little lighter spots, which is nice. I'll just drag that along. So it's becoming more of a meadow now. It's looking a little prettier. Let's pull some of that sap and put it here under the fence rail. And now I'm going to take my number 3 brush, rinse it off, go into my carmine color, or alizarin crimson, whichever one you used. And I'm just going to start to put little dots in and around near the ends of my branches to start with. So wherever I've got a branch ends, I'm going to put a little bit of this extra pop of color on the end. And it doesn't have to be shaped in any specific shape. It's just a little matte or blob of color. Nice artist term, blob. And where I've got a break here in between branches, I'm just going to put a little bit in there. And then instead of my full strength color, I'm going to add water. So I'm lightening it up with water. So if I was to put that on full strength, this would be the color. So you can see it's a little bit lighter just by adding water. And I'm going on with this lighter color now. And I'm just going to put markings all in and around my tree with this lighter color. And you can leave some of that white showing if you like. The white actually is part of, when you look at cherry blossoms, they have white on them before they're fully formed. And I'm going to add some of that color where the tree just starts to come into the branches. And because that's a different color than what it's a fresh color from what was already there, it will actually have almost a 4D effect. And if you like, which I didn't do in the picture, but if you like, you can put some of those cherry blossoms down below. You can put a little bit of that sitting on the grass. And what you'll want to decide now is this is complete. Where do you want to put your signature? What does your artist signature look like? Do you want to sign it on the front? Do you not want to sign it? That's entirely up to you. There's the two. Have a good week, everyone.